Hola.
Hey.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, we have a really good cardio workout in the morning, and like everyone try to just like hustle in with a scooter, with bike, right? And this is not very modular, and then also like this is what happened when like liquidity is like totally fragmented, right? Yeah, so blockchain can fix this, I guess. Okay, probably let's just like get start with like a quick introduction. So my name is Dovey. So I run my own shop, and we are a VC, but not like technically a VC. We are LP list fund, but we write VC checks, and has been in the space for like too long, like 10 years now, and yeah, and then probably move on to Zone, and I know Zone has a very interesting experience and surviving a lot of like trauma in this space, like Terra, Luna, and also one of the survivor here, and Nick, like definitely also OG. And I think Nick, we first met when you were in Harmony, right? Yeah. So yeah, probably let's just talk about your experience in the space, and then how does it feel as this like multi-cyclers, and then now we are in a new cycle, and like blockchain used to be just a wholly like fully monolithic, and then now it's kind of like spawning out and with like so many different components, and but like also comes with a lot of like friction and like especially mental friction, right? And so like how we can make like modular, like just like modular package like more usable for developers and then also for users. Yeah. So probably start with Zone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zon, Chief BDSM Officer at Initia. That stands for Business Development, Strategy, and Marketing. Initia is a network for interwoven rollups. We're holistically rebuilding how multi-chain networks should look, feel, and operate for both users and developers along three main verticals: the architecture stacks that people use to spin up application-specific blockchains, the product stack that end users face when interacting with potentially thousands of different app chains, and the economic systems that kind of tie these networks together. Yeah, I do have a bit of a trauma in the history. Right out of college, I was a smart contract developer at Terra, which was quite a wild ride. Helped build a few dApps within the ecosystem, and then I left to build my own options project. Unfortunately, I still got bopped because that options project was also on the Terra blockchain. But afterwards, spent a bit of time figuring out what I wanted to do next, went to Ethereum land, and then really saw the rise of the modular thesis, led by Nick White and some others. And I think just modularity was an inevitable part that was going to come to blockchains. You saw this sort of separation happen within traditional Web 2 architecture as we spun into things like microservices, and it kind of just made sense to rip apart the stacks of a blockchain, optimize each layer, and then figure out the ways to put these different pieces back together.
Nick?
Hey guys, I'm Nick White. I'm the COO at Celestia Labs. And Celestia is the first modular blockchain network. And it specializes specifically in the layers of data availability, which you can think of as data publishing. It's sort of like producing block space and securing chains built on top of Celestia, and consensus, which is ordering. But the sort of inspiration for Celestia is this idea that Zon was alluding to, which is that previously, kind of by default, all blockchains had been built with a monolithic design, meaning that there was one protocol that was responsible for every function in the stack. And it turns out when you build blockchains that way, you inherit a bunch of constraints, essentially, that prevent you from building truly compelling, scalable applications. And so modular blockchains are all about breaking those functions into separate protocols that can be optimized and then mixed and matched to build a custom stack for whatever application you want to build, whatever kind of user experience you want to provide. And Celestia has been trying to champion that way of building things, and we're not the only project. Obviously, there's a lot of really talented teams building in the space, including Initia, as well as other panelists who couldn't be here, like Anurag and Victor.
Yeah, so like Nick, just like a following question there is like we have seen many other modular like service provider like popping up, like especially for like since the last 3 years, I guess. And how do you see, like, is it possible that in the future, like all this modular service becoming like a commodity, And then, so if like that's the case, then how can DA layer like capture value eventually?
That's a good question. So there's people sort of have, I think is a misconception, which is that data availability sounds like data storage, or like that is some place where you just dump data. And if that were the case, it would be commoditized. But the actual real way to think about what data availability is it's block space. And block space has a lot of network effects and is definitely not a commodity. So like even if you look in the market today, there are lots of different EVM chains, but the market prices that block space very differently, depending on which chain you're talking about, whether it's Ethereum or let's say Tron or Arbitrum. And so I think, yeah, it's sort of like there's a misconception that data availability is a commodity when it's not. It's just like any other block space.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so probably like the next question gonna be for, okay, now we have like the
Woo! You guys made it.
Woo!
Welcome, guys. Thanks for making it.
How was like
Woo!
the cardio? Like, so you guys are running, I know. Yeah, so.
This is insane, you know, like, for these 2 days, but finally we make it.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about a very interesting topic, and then so I think that all the founders in the space, in like modular space, has been thinking a lot as well, like how we cannot make, so like, are we going to be a commodity service in the future, like on DA, on like everything, and then so like how like DA can like capture value, and so like Anurag, like probably you can also give your own opinion as well, because I know that Avail has been working on this since like the Polygon era, right? And then so how do you see like this DA layer evolve like going forward, and then just like to stay relevant in this space, right?
Yeah. So. See, data availability is a very critical component of how blockchains work, right? Like, I mean, data availability essentially, if you kind of look at how blockchains are constructed, so there is a data availability component, and execution and settlement component. And data availability is actually very misunderstood. It's not data storage. It's not a number of other things, right? Like it kind of is this ordering guarantees that you get from committing to a particular set of transactions in a particular order at some point in time. And so it's all about how do you design these mechanisms. And data availability, when we are kind of segregating it as layers, what we are essentially offering is an ordering as a service. And the ordering is actually very important. A lot of people maybe don't understand this part, in the sense that who defines the order of transactions in a setting that no one really controls. So there is no centralized entity that is determining the order, and so there's a whole lot of things that get into it. And so the idea is that, of course, you know, like we are building solutions that bring higher data availability throughput, easier data availability verification, but it's not only a throughput thing. It's also when you are kind of getting into this architectural paradigm where we are moving away from let's all put apps into one big chain into an era where there's a base layer and there's like a bunch of rollups on top or services on top. What you really want to optimize for is that once we have these many rollups or many microservices on top, how do we kind of enable them to talk to each other, right? Like these are also important questions. And you need to have succinct ordering guarantees coming from this, for example, and so on. So I think the question there is not to focus just solely on the throughput perspective. Throughput is going to be massive because, see, right now we don't even have you know, like a minor fraction of the apps that are going to be there on these blockchains. If you kind of look at like apps on the internet, the kind of activities that is there, that's not come to blockchain yet. And so once we get to go there, like throughput is of course important, which we are solving for. But the important thing that something like blockchains like Avail, Celestia bring to the picture is data availability sampling. which is this method of easy verification that allows all of these to talk to each other. And so I think we need to kind of redefine how we kind of evaluate, like a data availability. It's not a data storage solution. Like, I mean, there are better data storage solutions like Filecoin, RV, for example. And so the idea is to look at the overall value proposition that these layers bring.
Cool. Yeah, so like Victor and you guys are one of the biggest L2 out there, and then you guys are also, I guess, like important clients for all the other like modular service provider like Celestia, Avail, and Initia, right? And so when you guys like look at all this like technical partnership or just like technical solution decision, like do you have like any like specific like criteria when like thinking about, okay, I want to work on this DA versus like the other DA, or like this like developer stack versus like the other developer stack? Because you guys were working on Polkadot before, right? And then so now switching from Polkadot to Ethereum, and yeah, just any just learnings there.
Yeah, at the beginning, so like we are start from as a Polkadot project, and back in 2020, and we've been building this for 4 years. And what we are building right now is totally different with the beginning, but we have to pivot to survive in the space. Like the reason we start to choose like L2, basically we find there's more use cases, there's more like ecosystem. We actually can build some applications. We actually can collaborate with different parties to achieve growth together. And we take the modular approach because we don't want to build everything start from beginning. And especially like when we start to do the ZK applications, it's actually consume a lot of gas fee. So we have to choose other DA besides Ethereum DA start from day one. And that's why we basically start to research on the modular space, and we find Celestia is the leading partner in this space, and we start to work with Celestia I think since early last year. And at the beginning, we are the first I think L2 integrate Celestia DA in the testnet and then on the mainnet and right now we take pretty big percentage of the block space of Celestia on Manta. So the reason we chose different partners, because we want to actually grow with them together. So I think there's opportunities. We we can help them and they can help us, and we actually build a whole ecosystem. All of them, they really commit into Celestia DA. That's how we are working, and all of them are pretty good applications, and they get into the modular space through Manta. And we are more like a gateway for developers, build whatever through Manta, and eventually Celestia underneath. And and at the same time, Celestia definitely make us save I think right now 2 million gas fees compared to other L2 using Ethereum DA. And that's how it works. And at the same time, we also work with other partners yield bearing stablecoin, and also native yield ETH, LST, LRT, and we still working with different partners on the AI side, just keep building this modular narrative together with different use cases.
Yep. So when we think about layer 2, right, the measurement gonna be TVL. TVL is the GDP in our space, right? And so I think this is also a question for the other panelists here is do you have your TVL equivalent success metrics out there for your own projects, and then for Initia and for DA, and then what do you consider your North Star, or just the common denominator level of business metrics to measure your success? And we can start from Zone.
Sure. So at Initia, we're both a layer 1 as well as a system of layer 2s. So I think TVL is a metric that we look at both within the TVL that exists on the layer 1, but also across all the layer 2s on top of Initia and summing those up. I think what's more important is mostly engagement and some of the community building that's being done. I think like TVL is a fine measure, but it's very easy to game with incentives, and that often ebbs and flows. What is more long-standing is if you can find a few critical applications and you can see that there is a community being formed around them, and then there's constant usage within those products. I think within this roll-up landscape, people often think like, oh, 1,000 roll-ups is like the North Star. We want more and more roll-ups. But I don't think that more is better. I think that quality is always better than quantity. And if you look at existing successful ecosystems, things like Arbitrum or Optimism, they all kind of follow the power law. Like on Arbitrum, it was GMX and like maybe Magic DAO that kind of led the entire trajectory. On Optimism, it was Synthetics and Velodrome. And that's kind of a similar thing that we want to replicate with Initia. And that's why we're starting off with around 4 to 6 layer 2 teams that we've been working with on closed testnet for the past 4 months, just really shipping them a lot of our development resources and ensuring that they succeed rather than being focused on 1,000 different rollups on top of us.
Yeah. So for Nick?
That's a really good question. We think of sort of 3 key metrics that we're currently optimizing for. One is gigabyte blocks, which essentially boils down to what the core value proposition of Celestia is like this secure, decentralized, trust minimized block space, and scaling the amount of block space we can produce, and hopefully having lots of teams actually also consuming the block space. I think that's probably the most important thing. Another metric that we care about is actually the number of rollups. I think it's the best thing. I agree with Zon's take that you know, not all rollups or like applications are created equally, and there will be a power law distribution. But we want to optimize to have, or we hope to have like 1 million rollups in the future, because we think that through experimentation, that's how we're going to unlock more use cases. And by virtue of having 1 million rollups deployed on Celestia, that would mean that the stack has been extremely thoroughly tested, and there's a lot of sort of like integrations, and there's like lots of things that people can build, and the developer experience will be good. And then the last one is we want to eventually scale to 1 billion light nodes, because light nodes are essentially what powers the security and trust minimization and also scalability of the network. So like having more and more users running light nodes on their phones, embedded in wallets and browsers is a really key thing that we also want to optimize for, and we're working with different teams to help make that possible.
Got it. Victor?
Yeah, I mean, like, we just focus on the, like, TVL start from beginning, you know, like, that's kind of super important. And, you know, like a lot of, like, other layer 2 also cares about, you know, number of smart contracts deploy on the chain, but we think, you know, this is something, you know, really easy to, like, you know, just farm by some random devs or, you know, studios. I recently, like, besides TVL, because everyone is doing TVL game right now, and the money is so expensive, I don't think, you know, after token launch, we can actually, you know, keep, like, support this kind of money in the, like, you know, on Manta. But basically, we are more care about the quality of TVL. It means, like, how many, like, what is the TVL on the DeFi protocols, divide what is the total, like, asset bridge into the L2. That is actually, like, it shows the adoption of the money and the capital efficiency of the money in the on the layer 2. So that's what I think is really valuable. And also another metric is, you know, how is the, like, crypto asset you attract on the TVL can able to use in the, like, RWA protocols. So it means actually put in the real world. So it's another metrics to show the adoption. Like, you know, we work with mountain protocols, we work with, you know, other RWA project. I find, you know, that can actually bring a lot of mass adoption beyond the crypto space. And recently, you know, Hong Kong also approved like ETF, and both Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's actually really positive signs. You know, a lot of DeFi money probably can go into the TradeFi as well. So I think more and more these kind of metrics can make Manta more differentiated. But at the beginning, you have to have a pretty big TVL to attract dApps built on top of you. Otherwise, how can the applications attract crypto asset for the chain? It's not possible, right?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes and no. The TVL is important, right? Historically, that's how we have kind of measured value on blockchains. Mostly, if you see Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these are measured by how much TVL they have, how much cryptoeconomic security they have, and so and it's easy to evaluate blockchains by the sort of TVL they manage to get. So of course, I will not say that we don't have a focus on TVL. Certainly, there is a focus on TVL in the sense that rollups on top of Avail should be able to attract the highest amount of TVL. It's also important for us to make it easy for rollups on Avail to attract liquidity from other rollups. So that's why we spend a lot of time building infrastructure that makes it easy for people to move liquidity from rollup A to rollup B, for example, right? So when you create a rollup, you today have to contend with, do you have to bridge funds from Ethereum to your rollup or other rollups? How is that made possible? And so I think we focus a lot on that to build infrastructure that maximizes enabling of TVL on other rollups. Yep. So to that extent, yes. We are also very much track the kind of cryptoeconomic security that the base layer brings. So that is important because this is going to be a fundamental layer on which a lot of other blockchains will rely. And so we have to maximize cryptoeconomic security. So that's why at Avail we've kind of just been working on an upgrade that not only allows you to stake the native Avail token, but also allows you to bootstrap cryptocurrency security through staking BTC and ETH, for example. So that is also some metrics that we are focusing on. But on the larger picture, right? What do we really want to get out of building all this? Is that, I'm in the space since 2017. I've been building off-chain scaling solutions. I started with building Plasma back in 2017. That was, one of the first off-chain solutions. And when Ethereum really changed its roadmap from an execution sharding roadmap to a rollup-centric roadmap, right? It became apparent that the shift was going to be in an architecture where there are going to be these not all apps on this big supercomputer. It's going to be where, so this is analogy about apps on the internet, where all apps don't really live on one super big computer. We want apps to be on their own servers, scale independently, for example. And so, of course, we focus on things like TVL and submissions and the number of rollups. But what we really want to optimize for is enabling as millions of rollups. And these rollups are not, for most people, the mental model for rollups is a EVM rollup or maybe a Starkware rollup, for example. But the reality is that these rollups are going to be much like how today's Web 2 developers build, apps, right? It can be in any language, in any using any sort of database. It's going to be within a 6 to 12 months picture, app-specific rollup stacks are going to be so mature that you can write an app in TypeScript or Rust or something like that, and you can get an app chain running. And so we want to enable that future. And so that's what we are optimizing for, scaling rollups and then enabling these rollups to talk to each other.
Cool. Yeah, so we have 10 minutes left, and I really want to zoom in to some of the personal experience and for all the panelists here as veteran founders. So we can start with Anurag, and because you were in the space since 2017, and most of my founders from that cohort completely just checked out because it's so the mental aging is insane, right? So in crypto, so we all feel like boomer already. And then so what keeps you in this space, and from Polygon to Avail, and then still just grind first day?
Yeah, I mean, curiously, I just tweeted about this probably a few days ago. To be very frank, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like, so you're just very easy to get bored and
Yeah. I like it's basically like once we went to the journey of building Polygon, I just got used to I just got used to building I'm in love with building these these foundational sort of projects, solving hard problems. That's a window. Like I used to be in Web 2 before 2017, and you used to work on, I would say, in the context of crypto, relatively boring things. And so like crypto has given me this purpose in life. I just want to solve these hard problems, and I can see that I'm in a vantage position that I can kind of get a hold of these problems, build solutions to it, and get them to market. So, to be very frank, I don't know what else I will be doing. I've tried spending time away at the beach, lounging away for a month, but I just get bored. I just get
got it.
seriously bored. And also, to me, like Avail is one of those foundational ideas that like comes once in a while, and I don't really feel like handling that to someone else. So I just love doing what I do, and so I just want to continue doing this till I drop down dead.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so for Victor, I remember like first time we met and you still have like shining black hair and now it's like half grayish. So you were grinding in the Polkadot ecosystem. The Polkadot thing is kind of like disappointing for all of us, and I believe. And so like for any young founders out there, and then so like do you have any advice for them? Because like the alignment, like the base chain alignment or the ecosystem alignment is quite a critical decision for them, right? And then, so can you just like share some of your advice for them just to help them stay from this like hair graying experience?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really hard, like, I think first, like, we keep our promise, deliver the Polkadot parachain, and
Yep.
that's it, like, I don't want to stay in the ecosystem too much because it's really toxic. No one really care about the on-chain activity. Everyone just talking about the, like, oh, we partner with some like big company like Deloitte, but DAU is like 5 on-chain address every day, but like it not make sense. But like people just the team actually the Polkadot team really support these kind of things. But when I start to do ecosystem, I find there's a lot of builders. I should responsible for them. I should spend time with them and support more like those projects can really like have active on-chain activities. That's something I really learned from how is the like Polkadot's ecosystem treat to us, and we shouldn't do that to our ecosystem and to our partners. But like I feel like if you choose the like some ecosystem not working at beginning, I mean it's fine. There's lot of opportunities. You can still work in the space, but keep building. I learned a lot actually from all of the builder on the stage. Actually, I start to read articles from Dovey since 2017. Like I got inspired a lot, about the what you talk about Zcash, ontology. That's how I started to work at ontology back in 2019, because of what is the vision, what they're doing, and it's actually make me keep building ZK and keep try to get adoption for our ecosystem, builders, and yeah, that's how we keep learning from each other is really important. And Anurag is as well and I really believe the what he described, the vision about client in the future, replace RPC, and all of these vision are really push us keep building in the space.
Cool. Yeah, and like Nick has a very unique experience as well, but you didn't change much, and then so we have to ask you, what's your like anti-aging tricks, like off the stage? Yeah, so you start as an angel investor, I remember, in Celestia, right? And then later on, and so it's not very common from like an investor and to join the project that you invested as like a full-time operator. So like, what makes the decision? So like, just like, what triggered you to make the decision there?
Yeah, so actually, well, I started out as an advisor.
Not advisor, okay.
But, well, I first started, I co-founded a project called Harmony, which was trying to solve the same core problem, which is like solve the base layer infrastructure, make it scalable. And while I was still at Harmony, I read the Lazy Ledger white paper. This is in like August 2020, and it just completely blew my mind. And I realized that to me, it was the most important innovation in blockchain since Ethereum, essentially. And the more I learned, the more it made sense. And so I started just falling down the rabbit hole, and my mind was just like on fire, and I was like consumed by this idea, and I couldn't like put it away. And so even though I was quite burnt out from like 2.5 years at Harmony, and I took some time off, I kept coming back to it, and I was like, I want to work on this. I don't even
That's
care.
a calling, right? Like that's like a
Yeah,
calling.
it was very much a calling, and I was like, I don't really care about anything. I was actually, one of my messages to Mustafa, I just said, I just want to like make history because I think this is a historic idea and project, and I want to build it with you.
Cool. Yeah, so for Zong, you have like good experience, and it's a very intense experience in our space. Yeah, and so the Terra experience is wild. And then so like after Terra, and what makes you still stay in this Cosmos, broader Cosmos ecosystem? Because Cosmos is like quite, like so I've known many like Cosmos developer, and they're completely traumatized by Terra, and then so they just like rage quit like Cosmos and to like alternative ecosystem. Yeah, so like what is like the mental mental pathway for you to stay there?
Right. I think just the Cosmos SDK has always been the most flexible stack to build unique blockchains, and we're seeing this right now. Like Celestia is a Cosmos SDK blockchain, Berachain is a Cosmos chain, Hyperliquid, Osmosis, DYDX v4, everything that's unique and new within the execution space or the application space is built on Cosmos SDK these days. I think some of the fundamental problems with Cosmos were that it's just too difficult to actually build a Cosmos chain, mostly because you have to run an entire layer 1, which means you have to have a validator set, you have to inflate your token supply, and these things are just a pain to deal with. And so at Initia, we're kind of building a better version of Cosmos in a sense, without so many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So one of the big problems with Cosmos was that there's just way too many teams developing on the same piece, and it leads to fractionalization and fragmentation of not only liquidity, but also products within it. And so at Initia, we're rebuilding this entire stack ourselves, and so that we can shape the vision how we think it should work. And I think that's why I've stuck around with Cosmos, and now teams can build application-specific Cosmos SDK chains on Initia without having to deal with validators. And through our layer 1, they're provided with literally everything they need. Instant bridging, native USDC and CCTP access, oracles, interoperability between all the other layer 2s, the ability to use EVM, MoveVM, and WASM-VM, literally everything that you might want, but in the most lightweight way possible.
Cool. Okay, I think we are perfectly on time, and like that's pretty much it for today. And I want to do like a quick selfie for all of us, and yeah, so like if we can see each other again in like 2049, like the actual year like 2049, and then we will see who has like the best like anti-aging tricks. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. 1, 2.